You've made it here to Gooner Down Under TV. It is an absolute pleasure to have you on this channel. Today we are going to be breaking down the Arsenal vs Forest game to kick off our Premier League season. So, I feel like there was already enough controversy before the game even started. There's about 35,000 fans who couldn't get in because of this new e-ticket system. And then on top of that, Arteta puts out a new lineup. A lot of the fan base sort of goes into an uproar, feel like it's not our strongest 11. We're already going to start the season slow. And while I do get it, dropping Gabriel and having sort of a back three with Partey playing right back and slotting into the midfield is a gamble. I think we've gotten to the point now where we can't just rely on 11 players playing every single game. We've seen the past 2 seasons, maybe we start well or we have good patches, but at the end of the season, it always ends up with us burning out. You can call it whatever you like, bottling, choking, burning out. It's still the same result. We're just not good enough to the end of the season. And so I think because of that, Arteta's learned, and we need to be able to chop and change per game to be able to just pick up results and move on. I think, yesterday's game was a perfect example of that. I thought, there was a lot of good moments. I think out of 97 minutes, include the extra time, about 95 of them were good. And just those little moments of dropping our concentration, letting it slip, that sort of made it look a lot worse than it actually was. Throughout the game, we had a lot of really good passages of play, really breaking down their low block, intricate passing already. Those new players are settling in really nicely. And I think there's also other aspects that we're not really looking at. Martinelli, he started off on the left. A lot of times he would go into that center of the park, play up front. He would go onto the right, so he had a real free roaming position. And Havertz would sort of switch with him sometimes, switch with Eddie. And so I think Arteta's really just trying to get 11 players who can all play football, who can all fill in for each other and just have one dynamic unit rather than sort of structured systems. And so honestly, I think for most of that game, like I said, it was good. Maybe we didn't create as many chances as some fans would like, but I think, we definitely had a few absolute magic from Martinelli. I don't know if he meant that, but split 2 defenders, turned pass to Eddie, and then Eddie was able to slot it away. And then that second chance, Saka, what he's been doing for so long now, cutting in outside of the box, an absolute beauty with his left foot. Besides that, Declan Rice had a few chances. If he can start putting away some of those, I feel like we look even better, and it's a different narrative yesterday. Havertz as well, a couple whipped balls into the cross. No one's there to get it. You can see in sort of that Crystal Palace game, Ayew beats his player, cuts it in. Edouard is there to slot it away. I think because of our system, we typically don't have someone in the focal point of our attack being there for crosses, but I think that's something we may need to look at because there's often times where, it's White, Havertz, Saka, Odegaard, whoever it is, we're getting good balls into dangerous positions, but no one is there to capitalize. Regardless, I think the biggest thing we need to look at is sort of those very small moments where we just slip. For their goal, their man was able to carry the ball the entire length of the field. No one picked him up. It was sort of, rough play. They were able to get the ball and break with it. Typically, I guess you'd have a right back there, but because Partey's slotting into the midfield, no one is there. Ben White doesn't know whether to go out or cover the middle. He ends up covering the middle and getting burned anyway because the player he's defending beats him in front, gets to the ball and scores. And so we really need to cut that out, especially with the amount of possession we had. We looked good. It was comfortable. They shouldn't have even had a chance. I think, we didn't even really get out of second gear. We were all over them for so much of that game, in cruise control with the ball. And I feel like if we just didn't let it slip, it would be a complete different narrative. Our fans wouldn't be in uproar with the result, and we would be saying something completely different in this video. But that's not what happened. They came back into the game. Those last 15 minutes or so were not necessarily shaky because still Forest, besides maybe one chance after that, didn't create anything. But I feel like as Arsenal fans, we're all used to the worst. We're used to being in that winning position, letting one slip, and then everything collapses. But that wasn't the case yesterday. I thought for a game where we sort of didn't pull out a second gear, I thought we did well. It was a good performance, not great. There's just those little things we need to work on, but I think it's definitely a good way to start the season. I see sort of fans go into meltdown because it wasn't the best performance. We're already not coming first against City, but we don't need that. We've seen how City win year after year. It's you got to finish strong, and I'd so much rather just pick up results now, keep it going, and then once it hits January, that's when the form comes together. That's when everything starts meshing, and we can go on a massive run. Um, I think for now, we just need to stay neck and neck. If we can go out on a lead again like last season, great, but we shouldn't waste everything to do that. And I think, Mikel's got us lined up for that. Like I said, the games, our team will rotate game by game dependent on who we're versing. I think if we were versing a big team, I don't think we'd have that lineup we saw yesterday. I think we'd probably have a double pivot of Rice and Partey, our typical back four, maybe Odegaard, and then our three attackers, whoever they are. Um, but I think, this is also good for the standpoint that we're not so predictable. I'm sure Nottingham Forest had their thoughts of what we would do. I don't think they assumed Mikel would drop Gabriel, and I think that puts one more element of sort of uncertainty in the other team's playbook. Who us as fans don't even know if he's going to play. The other team won't know. Mikel is going to keep it secret. Maybe he doesn't even know till it's game time. But I think the only thing we can do is sort of trust him and know that he's going to put our team in the best chance to win. And so, just touching on a few of the player performances, I feel like already Havertz has been completely shunned from a lot of the Arsenal fan base. And look, I get it. He flopped at Chelsea. It's another player from Chelsea, but he's played one game in the Premier League. And honestly, I think he played pretty well. He wasn't outstanding. He wasn't a 10 out of 10 world class player, but he was solid. And I think that's exactly what we need. If he can do this on a consistent basis, I'm completely happy with that. As long as he, occasionally chips in with goals and assists. It's a 38 game season. He's not going to get a goal or an assist every single game. But I think yesterday, he picked the right spots. He got into the right pockets. He kept the ball moving, gave it to the players where it needed to be, put in some good balls, won the ball back, which I was surprised with, made a good tackle, put in a good cross to Saka, who tried to backheel it, went straight to the keeper. Maybe if Saka buries that, people look at Havertz and give him some praise. There was another chance he put in a really good, dangerous ball into the middle. No one was there. So I think, he's definitely doing the right things. There's a reason Mikel's playing him so many times. And I think because he's a very intelligent player, gets into the right spaces. I think the only thing was he probably should have got subbed out a little bit earlier. And that's not necessarily because he was poor. I think he was actually working really hard, making a lot of runs, trying to get into spaces on and off the ball. And so I think he was just absolutely knackered by the end. And personally, I would have subbed him. But that's really the only negative criticism I have. I thought he was pretty good. I wouldn't give him 10, but maybe a solid 7 out of 10. I think if he can consistently perform like that, like I said, I'd be quite happy. Touching on our other players, Declan Rice, again, I thought he was good too. He was really trying to get on the ball, make it, make something happen, keep it moving, was good defensively. And I thought, now he's really starting to gel. Every game I see him, he's starting to show more and more. And I'm really keen to see him sort of, progress throughout the season. And also the flexibility, he can play alongside Partey or he can play that number 6. And I think it's going to cause for a lot of different teams from Arteta, which is really exciting. Last of those big 3 new signings, unfortunately, Timber picks up an injury. As of now, still don't know the extent of it. He sort of picked up a knock late in that first half, was able to carry on, And then as soon as that second half starts, sort of turns his body, tries to pass, and his knee just buckles in on him. So I think, especially when there's no contact, nothing causing a sort of knee to collapse like that, I think that's quite scary, and I don't have too much confidence in this one. I think it might be a pretty bad injury. Let's obviously hope not, but, prayers with him. Hopefully he can come back as soon as possible. I thought, again, he looked very good, even in a new position at the left-sided centre-back, still strong with the ball, was able to carry, so smooth, doesn't really lose it. And even though I love Tomiyasu, and I think Tomiyasu might actually be a good person to play in a left-sided centre-back role, when we sort of play similar lineups, you could see the drop-off when Timber came off. It's just not that same level on the ball. And I think that's something Mikel is definitely working towards. He saw that Forest was going to sort of push everyone back, so he tried to match that by having all 10 players be ball players. There's not one player in that team who I don't feel confident with on the ball. And I think especially if they keep playing together, I think there's going to be more and more magic. We could see it in glimpses, some of those passes, the triangles. And I think if they get to even familiarize themselves even more in that new system, I think we're finally going to be able to have a solution against these teams that play a low block. Besides that, again, Martinelli and Saka, absolute class. It was very nice to see Nketiah get on the score sheet. He's not my favorite player, but if he keeps scoring, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. As long as we're winning, I don't really care who plays. But look, these are my main sort of talking points from the game. What I want to hear is you. I want to hear what you have to say. Put it in the comments section below. Did you think we played well? Do you think I was talking absolute rubbish and it was a terrible game? Lastly, if you've made it this far, make sure to like and subscribe to the video. It really does help out the channel, and you can check out my other content right here. Peace.